So moving on to the question. So Casel's necklace is a photosensitive dermatitis around the neck, which is caused by the deficiency of what is called as the niacin or vitamin B3. Now moving on to the next question. MELAS syndrome, MELAS syndrome, is associated with the mutation of nuclear DNA coding for dystrophin, mitochondrial DNA, X-linked genes, autosomal dominant genes. Okay, so what is this MELAS? So MELAS, as the name suggests, okay, ME stands for mitochondrial encephalopathy. Mitochondrial encephalopathy. To be specific, encephalomyopathy. And LA stands for lactic acidosis. And S stands for stroke-like symptoms. Okay, so MELAS basically is the mitochondrial encephalomyopathy and lactic acidosis, stroke-like symptoms. So, see, I'm going to just scrutinize, or I'm just going to tell you information based on the terminologies. Okay, so mitochondria is a powerhouse of the cell, and it is very essential for the production of ATP, energy. Okay, encephalopathy. Encephalo means brain. Myopathy means muscles. So there is going to be weakness of the muscles because of the decreased production of ATP. Lactic acidosis. There is going to be increased lactic acid. That is going to result in vomiting. Okay, and stroke-like symptoms. And these patients, in addition to these, will also have diabetes. Okay, they also will have diabetes. So this MELAS syndrome basically is mainly because of the mutation of mitochondrial DNA. Okay, any changes in the mitochondria that is going to production results in decreased energy, decreased ATP, that is going to result in all these kind of weakness. Okay, so MELAS syndrome is most commonly associated with the mutation of mitochondrial DNA. Fine. Now moving on to the next question. A 22-year-old reports with muscle cramps, dark urine after exercise. He says symptoms improve with rest. An ischemic forearm exercise test shows no rise in serum lactate, but ammonia increases normally. And what is the most likely enzyme associated with this? Okay, now a 22-year-old man with muscle cramps and dark urine. Muscle cramps and dark urine are suggestive of what is called as rhabdomyolysis. Okay, so muscle cramps and dark urine are suggestive of rhabdomyolysis. Fine, I'll tell you what is rhabdomyolysis. And he says that the symptoms improve with rest. So when the patient is taking rest, there is a regain of energy. There is the patient becomes normal. Transient weakness is there, and after rest, the patient becomes normal. Okay, and a forearm test shows no rise in serum lactate. So when I say that there is no rise in serum lactate, that means there is decreased amount or block in glycolysis. Fine, there is block in glycolysis, and the ammonia increases normally. That means there is adequate effort given. So despite the adequate effort given by the patient, there is no rise in serum lactate, which indicates that there is some problem in glycolysis, and the muscle cramps and dark urine shows that there is some kind of rhabdomyolysis, that is muscle breakdown. When there is rhabdomyolysis, there is going to be muscle weakness, breakdown of muscles, and there is going to be increased amount of myoglobin, potassium, phosphate, creatine kinase in bloodstream. all these are going to get increased. So when I take a urine sample of this patient, there's going to be increased myoglobinuria. Okay, so all these are indicative of some kind of an enzyme deficiency where or which leads to a decreased ATP production. Because of the weakness, the patient is having muscle cramps, dark urine, but when he takes rest, he becomes normal, and despite adequate effort, there is no increase in serum lactate. So there is something called as glycogenolysis. There is something called as glycogenolysis. What is glycogenolysis? Glycogenolysis is the breakdown of glycogen into glucose, which in turn enters the Krebs cycle, glycolysis, ATP production. So this is what is normally happening, right? So the storage form of the glucose, excess glucose is stored in the form of glycogen. So when energy is required, glycogen breaks to glucose, glucose enters the Krebs cycle, and then it breaks down to form ATP. So what happens in this patient is the glycogenolysis is not taking place. So at some point of the cycle, it gets blocked. So where it gets blocked predominantly is it gets blocked at the level of myophosphorylase. Okay, this myophosphorylase is very important because it helps in the conversion of glycogen to glucose 1-phosphate. Myophosphorylase. So this myophosphorylase helps in the conversion of glycogen to glucose 1-phosphate. This takes place in glycogenolysis, and this step is blocked in these patients. This is suggestive of McArdle's disease. So moving back to the question, a 22-year-old man with muscle cramps and dark urine after exercise. So symptoms improve with rest, and forearm test shows there's no serum lactate, ammonia normal. So I'll go with myophosphorylase enzyme, which is a very important enzyme in glycogenolysis. So it basically converts glycogen to glucose 1-phosphate. Fine. Now moving on to the next question. Cry-Dujat syndrome is most commonly associated with. So Cry-Dujat syndrome is basically, it is otherwise called as 5p deletion syndrome. Okay, 5p deletion syndrome. So the short arm of 5p is not there. It's called as 5p deletion syndrome. So these patients will have classical feature of cry of a cat. Why? This is mainly because of the abnormal development of the larynx and also neurological problems. These patients will have short stature. Okay, and if you ask me the treatment of this, there is no treatment, and with proper treatment plan, we can give the patient assurance of normal lifespan, but these symptoms might persist throughout the life. Okay, so Cry-Dujat syndrome is mainly because of the deletion of short arm of 5p chromosome. Okay, so with this, the biochemistry recall comes to an end, and if you know any other questions in biochemistry, you can just put it in the comment section. We'll try to answer. And thank you so much for watching the video. We'll see in the next subject. Okay, thank you so much.